let's start first and foremost where we're thinking about the new areas of revenue. And Steve and I address this question to you, because how important now is the monetization of patents? How are you seeing this driving in terms of percentage-wise of revenue going forward?
So the revenue we will realize through patent licensing is not going to make up for or be in lieu of product sales. In any given year, we're talking about numbers that are in the hundreds of millions versus product sales, products and services combined being in tens of billions of US dollars. So certainly one is not going to be a replacement for the other. We are simply trying to make sure that based upon the money we've spent through the years on R&D and then patenting, that we're getting a fair return on our patent expenditures for patenting our technologies, and also using the patents to reach agreements with our competitors and peers to make sure that the innovation that goes into global standards such as 4G and 5G telephony, for Wi-Fi, for the audio-video codecs that allow for streaming for your viewers to watch even today's show, that is recuperated by not only Huawei, but other large members of the ICT industry for what we spend on R&D.
I want to bring Andy Purdy, Huawei's Chief Security Officer, into the conversation. Andy, how much of a bitter pill to swallow is this for Huawei? You know, you once had a significant handset business that was a driver of revenue growth, but also just accounted for a big chunk of revenue. Now you are pivoting, essentially. Again, is it a bitter pill to swallow?
Well, we deal with reality. And the reality is that we have certain challenges. Our survival is first and foremost. Our ability to work with partners and customers to innovate and bring 5G-enabled technologies to the world is what we're about, to help bring connectivity to the world. And so that's the way we look at it. We've got tremendous opportunities out there. The regimen, the international regime that Steve was just talking about, the idea that there are certain standards and certain companies may own patents relative to that standards, this international system of making sure there's fairness, that competitors can buy licenses from other competitors, is a huge thing on the international stage to help increase innovation and increase competition around the world. It's a great tribute to how well the global system works in the IP area.
Andy, though, those words, it's about survival. Just how threatened has your business model become through US-China tensions, and how non-ending do you think that this shutdown will be, this access to the United States, this ability to sell into it?
Well, when you look at our revenues from 2020 to 2021, our revenues dropped about $30 billion, mostly because of our inability to buy chips for our 5G phones. And so we are emphasizing tremendous investment this past year in R&D, over $20 billion in R&D, and thousands of partnerships to help bring 5G digital transformation to different industries such as smart mining and smart ports, and the ability to create safer environments and reduce energy consumption. And basically, we are finding our way in the world. And we're even doing hardcore scientific research on things like Moore's Law and Shannon's limit, so that the scientific challenges of 5G, 5.5G, and 6G can be overcome for the benefit of the world. So we take the world as we see it, and we're working hard and innovating. I think we at Huawei are really proud of how we're moving forward with partners around the world.
Stephen, you're the US Chief Intellectual Property Counsel. Oppo is still a Chinese maker of handsets. Could you talk us through how the deal came about and how difficult the deal was to get done?
Certainly. The deal was done through bilateral negotiations without the need for litigation. That's important because many times these deals are only brought about through litigation because we need the intervention of courts to help decide things such as what is the proper rate and what products should be subject to a license agreement. Here, that was not necessary. We also view that this is a key step forward. It's not our first Chinese cross-license by any means, nor is it Oppo's, but it is a major sign that the Chinese regime for patent protection continues to mature. These are our two large competitors, bringing about a very important agreement between the two of us.
Andy, I asked you earlier if having to license your tech rather than selling handsets is a bitter pill to swallow, and you said it's the reality. Where we are now, what is the reality of Huawei being able to sell not just handsets in terms of smartphones, but other hardware into the United States directly? How does that come about?
Our emphasis for the foreseeable future is in those parts of the world, and there are many, that are open to working with us, open to partnering from us. And so there are tremendous opportunities around the world. And so that's what we're focusing on right now. And frankly, as those of us in the United States, we look at some of the things we're doing around the world to help bring connectivity to the underconnected. We hope that in the United States, there can be a little more action and a little less talk about connecting the rural America in a resilient way, and frankly, helping to connect and have appropriate devices for distressed communities, poor communities in urban areas of the country. Americans really need to get the benefit of connectivity.
Overall, is that argument landing? Andy, who are you speaking to here in the United States? Do they still want in any way to grant access directly or indirectly for your technology? They feel the need for it? Because I was amazed to see just how many patents you put into the United States, for example, per year, like you're number one.
Well, as I said, our focus is not to do business in the United States. And as we talk about the lessons we are learning and 5G transformation around the world, this is not to enable us to do business. We think there are lessons that we're learning. We think there are lessons that the United States can learn from success stories in other parts of the world. I mentioned the smart mining and smart ports, but healthcare, manufacturing consistency, reducing energy consumption in telecommunications. The United States needs to step up and be much more active in these things to help the competitiveness of the United States and help the American people.
I'm interested, Stephen, and I'm wondering if you can take us in the money direction in your focus as Chief Intellectual Property Counsel. You are not only just announcing, of course, the deal with Oppo, but you made public for the first time that you're also doing licensing 5G to Samsung. How much, with some of these partners, particularly when it comes to Samsung, to Apple, to the huge players in this space, how much are you charging them in terms of patent use? And are you thinking about royalties in a different way? You're going to have to change the maths and be more aggressive.
Well, so first, we don't view ourselves as aggressive. We are certainly active in the licensing space, where third parties have done independent studies of our licensing, our rates for our patents versus many of our competitors. We actually are much more in the middle of the pack. So we are not looking to set the highest rates in any industry or technology. The importance of U.S. patents, for instance, which you mentioned previously, is still important, regardless of whether we ever sell a product again in the United States. Our patents, our technologies, are being used by U.S. companies. Many of those companies have freely, without litigation, have joined into license agreements with Huawei to pay for the rights to use our patented technology in the United States. No one in the United States can use Wi-Fi, particularly the new Wi-Fi 6, which is the AX version, without using Huawei's technology. Same thing with 4G, 5G. We are licensing car manufacturers and their suppliers all around the world, from Japan to China to the UK to Germany to the United States, on their use of our 4G technology in connected cars. And so that is the important thing, is making sure people understand the difference between global use of standardized technology, which Huawei is a leader in providing that technology, versus product sales.